There comes a moment in every person's life when the mirror turns into a weapon, not because of what it shows, but because of what it reveals. The exhaustion behind your eyes, the quiet resentment buried under your smile, the silent scream of a soul that has given too much. You have spent years being available to everyone, for everything, at every hour. You've answered calls that didn't deserve to be answered, showed up for people who never showed up for you, and poured yourself into the hands of those who only came to take. And now you wonder why you feel empty, why you wake up tired even after sleeping, why your own voice sounds foreign to you. The truth is brutal, but it is liberating. The cost of being available to everyone is your own soul. You traded your essence for approval, your peace for validation, and your purpose for convenience. You wanted to be loved, to be understood, to be seen, but in that pursuit, you became invisible to yourself. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Because the moment you do, you must also accept who you are not. You are not a savior. You are not a reservoir for the world's chaos. You are not obligated to rescue anyone drowning in waters they refuse to swim out of. Yet this is what society teaches you, to be endlessly available, endlessly giving, endlessly soft. But tell me, how long can a flame burn if everyone keeps taking from its light and no one adds wood to its fire? You were not born to be endlessly reachable. You were born to be real, to guard your time as if it were sacred because it is, to speak, no, not as a rebellion, but as a declaration of sovereignty. The world will try to convince you that boundaries are selfish. They are not. Boundaries are the architecture of self-respect, and without them, you will build nothing but prisons made of your own guilt. There is a quiet kind of slavery in always being available. Modern slavery does not always wear chains or carry whips. Sometimes it hides behind notifications, expectations, and the unspoken pressure to respond instantly. The modern world worships accessibility as if being reachable is the same as being valuable. You are not a machine to be at the disposal of others. You are not a vending machine of emotional labor. You are consciousness, depth, mystery, and all of these things demand distance, silence, absence. Nietzsche wrote, "He who cannot command himself will always be a servant." Every time you say yes when your soul screams no, you hand over your command. You surrender your authority to the whims of others. You become a ghost, haunting your own life, visible, functional, but hollow. It's time to reclaim your authority, to remember that solitude is not loneliness, it is power unobserved. The greatest transformations occur when you withdraw from the noise, not when you cling to it. You must learn the sacred art of disappearance, to vanish not out of bitterness, but out of reverence for your own becoming. Because every version of you that tried to please everyone has to die, so that the version of you that pleases truth can finally live. When you stop being available, something extraordinary happens. People begin to reveal themselves. The ones who only valued your presence when it served them will vanish. The ones who loved you for your energy will grow silent. But the ones who love you for your essence, they will stay, even in your absence. Absence is the most honest filter life has ever created. You begin to see the difference between connection and consumption, between those who seek your light and those who feed on it, between those who want to understand you and those who only want access to you. The world will tell you to be kind, but few will tell you that true kindness requires discernment. To be kind to all is to betray the self. To be kind to the right ones is wisdom. Machiavelli once wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But the truth is deeper. It is better to be respected than to be available. Respect is the natural offspring of restraint. Availability, when overextended, breeds contempt. The more you offer yourself without boundaries, the less your value is perceived. The diamond that can be found everywhere becomes glass. The voice that answers every call becomes background noise. You must learn to vanish strategically, not as a punishment to others, but as nourishment for yourself. There is no growth without isolation, no mastery without withdrawal. Every great mind in history understood this. Jesus went into the desert, Buddha sat beneath the tree, Jung retreated to his tower at Bollingen. They understood that to hear the voice of the soul, one must first silence the world. The age of constant connection has made silence the new rebellion. We scroll, we reply, we engage, we perform, but rarely do we exist. The modern mind is restless, overstimulated, addicted to validation disguised as communication. But when you step back, truly step back and stop being available, something ancient awakens within you, your intuition. It speaks in whispers, in sensations, in dreams. It tells you what to let go of, who to walk away from, what to build next. This is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. You are not rejecting people, you are returning to yourself. You are not withdrawing from life, you are re-entering it on your own terms. You are remembering that your time, your energy, your attention are currencies far more valuable than money, and that those who spend them without purpose are spiritually bankrupt. People will call you distant, cold, detached. Let them. The path to peace often looks like indifference to those who thrive on chaos. You will be misunderstood, but you will be free. The mind that is always available cannot create. The heart that is always reachable cannot heal. The soul that is always observed cannot evolve. When you stop being available, you return to a rhythm that is older than society, the rhythm of your own nature. You begin to operate from inner law, not outer demand. You stop reacting and start responding. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer explain, you embody. You no longer fear being alone because solitude becomes your sanctuary, not your sentence. That is when your energy becomes magnetic. Because the most powerful people are not those who are everywhere, they are those who are nowhere to be found, except where it truly matters. They move in silence. They protect their attention like warriors protect their kings. They understand that to rule one's world, one must first master one's availability. And so, when you feel that ache, that invisible fatigue of always being there for everyone, remember this: you were never meant to be universally accessible. The universe itself is selective. The stars do not appear in daylight. The moon does not explain its phases. The ocean does not apologize for its tides. Why should you apologize for your distance? Your distance is your dignity. Your silence is your strength. Your absence is your awakening. The cost of being available to everyone is your own soul, and you have already paid too much. Now it's time to buy yourself back. There comes a silence after awakening, a silence not of peace, but of confrontation. Because once you realize how much of yourself you've given away, you begin to see the ghosts of your own generosity haunting your mind, every favor done out of guilt, every yes whispered when your body wanted to scream no, every smile that was a mask. You begin to see that your exhaustion was never just physical, it was spiritual erosion, a slow leaking of your essence through the cracks of endless availability. You thought love meant sacrifice. You thought being good meant being open. You thought giving meant growth. But the world never told you that even love must have a boundary, that too much giving without alignment turns to decay. A flower that never closes its petals dies in the night. A heart that never guards its gates becomes a highway for manipulation. You cannot be the sun for others while forgetting your own orbit. There is a hidden arrogance in trying to be everything for everyone, because beneath that need to please lies fear, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough. You made yourself available because you were terrified that if you stopped, they would stop loving you. But what is love that demands constant availability? That is not love. That is dependency disguised as affection. When you finally retreat, when you allow silence to take the place of your constant presence, the first thing you feel is guilt. You feel selfish for resting. You feel cruel for not responding. You feel lost without the noise that once defined you. That is the withdrawal of a soul addicted to self-betrayal. But stay there. Stay in the silence long enough, and something miraculous begins to happen. You start to feel the pulse of your own rhythm again, the sound of your breath, the texture of your thoughts, the echo of your own voice returning home. In that solitude, you rediscover what was buried beneath the demands your intuition. That subtle voice that once guided you before you started living for others. It does not shout, it whispers. It tells you who to trust, where to go, when to stop. It tells you that peace does not come from people, it comes from clarity. And clarity only blooms in stillness. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the mastery of direction. The man who moves constantly without purpose is more lost than the one who sits still in awareness. We live in an age that glorifies motion but fears meaning. Everyone is chasing something, but few stop to ask why. When you stop being available, you break that hypnosis. You stop running. You begin to see. You start noticing how much of modern life depends on your distraction. The endless scroll, the constant ping, the silent expectation that you must respond instantly. The system thrives on your attention because attention is the new currency of control. Every time you give it away aimlessly, you weaken your sovereignty. You become programmable, predictable, pliable. The mind that cannot sit alone for 10 minutes will be enslaved by every notification that flashes before it. You were not designed to exist in a perpetual state of availability. The human psyche, Jung taught us, needs both engagement and withdrawal, the dance between outer and inner worlds. Too much outer focus fragments the soul. Too much inner withdrawal stagnates it. But today, we have lost the art of balance. We live outward, constantly performing, constantly responding, constantly proving. And in doing so, we forget that the most profound work of transformation happens in private. The caterpillar does not transform under observation. It disappears into the cocoon, unseen. The same must happen to you. To evolve, you must disappear not from the world, but from the version of yourself that the world expects you to be. To vanish into your own mind. To meet your shadows, your desires, your fears. That is where rebirth begins. The cost of being available is not just fatigue, it's the slow death of depth. Because when you are always accessible, you stop being mysterious. And mystery is the oxygen of respect. The world does not revere what it can easily reach. Power lies in rarity, in controlled distance, in deliberate silence. The lion is not feared because it roars all day. It is feared because of its restraint, because you never know when it will move. Do you see it now? Your availability has made you predictable, and predictability kills presence. Every time you are always there, always ready, always answering, you dissolve into the background of other people's priorities. To reclaim your presence, you must reintroduce absence. To command respect, you must learn to disappear. But disappearing does not mean detaching from life. It means detaching from chaos. It means choosing when and where your energy flows. It means guarding your focus like a sacred offering, because where your attention goes, your soul follows. And if you scatter your attention across everyone's demands, you scatter your power along with it. There will be those who call this selfishness. Let them. They mistake your boundaries for arrogance because they benefited from your lack of them. The moment you stop being constantly available, you stop being convenient, and people who only valued your convenience will reveal their true colors. Let them fall away. Do not chase what collapses when you stand still. Every withdrawal is an act of purification. You are not losing people, you are losing illusions. You are not becoming colder, you are becoming clearer. Because clarity is not gentle, it burns. It burns away the unnecessary, the manipulative, the false. It leaves you with silence, and in that silence, you find power. Power is not noise. Power is control. And control begins with knowing that you owe no one constant access to your mind, your emotions, or your time. The only person you must be fully available to is yourself. When you rise each morning, before the world's noise enters your mind, ask yourself, what deserves my attention today? Not who, what. Because the moment your priorities are built around people, you are at their mercy. But when they are built around principles, you become immovable. The immovable mind terrifies the world because it cannot be manipulated through guilt, urgency, or praise. It moves only when it chooses to. It loves deeply but selectively. It gives fully but intentionally. It is not reactive, it is sovereign. And that sovereignty, that sacred command of your availability, is what separates the masters from the masses. The masses exist in perpetual reaction. The masters exist in deliberate creation. Withdraw, not to escape life, but to remember you are the architect of it. Withdraw so you can return with vision. Withdraw so that when you do speak, it carries weight. Withdraw so that your presence means something again. Because the truth is this, if you are always there, your presence loses gravity. But if you choose when to appear, the world listens when you do. And that is when you realize your value was never in being available. It was in being irreplaceable. Detachment is not coldness. It is clarity purified through fire. It is the art of loving without losing yourself, of caring without collapsing, of giving without being consumed. Because somewhere along the way you were taught that to love means to lose your boundaries, that devotion meant self-erasure, that kindness meant surrender. But love without boundaries is not love, it is martyrdom disguised as virtue. Real love breathes through distance. It respects time. It honors individuality. It says, I will meet you halfway, but not at the cost of my soul. Because what value is there in a love that leaves you empty? To give endlessly is not noble, it is naive. And the world will drain you as long as you keep handing out pieces of yourself to those who see you as a source, not a soul. You must learn to hold your energy like royalty holds their crown, not because you think yourself above others, but because you understand the weight of what you carry. Your energy is not common. Your attention is not cheap. Every thought, every moment, every breath, sacred currency. And yet, most people spend it recklessly, buying approval, buying comfort, buying temporary belonging. But the truly awakened man, the truly awakened woman, they spend with intention. They understand that time is the only resource that does not replenish. And so they invest it only in what multiplies their soul. Purpose, growth, vision. Purpose, the antidote to distraction. The moment you find it, the noise of the world begins to fade. You no longer crave validation because the mission itself becomes your meaning. You no longer chase attention because your direction gives you gravity. You stop being available for gossip, for drama, for anything that does not align with your evolution. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. To live without purpose is to live under hypnosis, believing that every demand from the world is your responsibility. But when you awaken, when you drag those unconscious patterns into the light, you begin to see that most of your availability was not compassion, it was conditioning. A programmed response to be useful, agreeable, accepted. Break that pattern. You owe no one your constant accessibility. You owe yourself the chance to become something beyond your past programming. Purpose demands solitude, because when you are building something eternal, you cannot afford to be interrupted by the trivial. The sculptor cannot be available while chiseling marble. The writer cannot answer every call while birthing a book. The visionary cannot explain himself to those still addicted to comfort. Creation requires seclusion. Discipline, then, becomes your fortress. It is not punishment, it is protection. Every boundary, every schedule, every intentional no is a form of self-defense against mediocrity. Because mediocrity is the price of constant accessibility. The average mind lives on reaction, checking, scrolling, answering, explaining. The strong mind lives on creation, choosing, focusing, building, becoming. Do not confuse busyness with importance. The most overbooked people are often the least fulfilled. The ones who can never rest are the ones running from themselves. But the disciplined, they move differently. They move with calm authority. They speak less, but when they do, it cuts through noise like lightning through darkness. Their time is scarce, their presence deliberate, their energy precise. To master your availability is to master your destiny, because every no to distraction is a yes to purpose. Every moment you protect your solitude, you sharpen your mind. Every person you release who cannot meet your boundaries creates space for someone who will respect them. And then something strange begins to happen. You start to feel lighter, not because life gets easier, but because you no longer carry what isn't yours. The burden of always being needed dissolves. The illusion of constant relevance fades. You begin to taste freedom, and once you do, you will never again settle for chains disguised as connection. You start to see through people who speak in urgency, those who demand instant replies, instant attention, instant validation. You begin to recognize that urgency is often a mask for manipulation. The wise do not rush. The grounded do not demand. The powerful move in rhythm with eternity, not with panic. Gratitude becomes your compass. Because as you withdraw from chaos, you begin to notice the beauty of the simple, a silent morning, a deep breath, the weight of your own stillness. Gratitude anchors you in the present moment. It reminds you that your value does not come from being seen, but from being aligned. That peace is not found in people, but in perspective. Adaptability then takes root, because as you pull away from the world's constant noise, you start hearing the subtle music beneath it, the rhythm of change. You no longer resist what shifts. You flow with it. You bend without breaking. You stop being reactive to storms, because you understand storms are not punishments, they are recalibrations. Resilience grows not from never falling, but from no longer fearing the fall. When you are no longer available for every opinion, every judgment, every wave of approval or rejection, you become unshakable. Because no one can manipulate a person who has nothing to prove. No one can control a soul that no longer seeks permission to exist. You begin to embody stillness as strength. You no longer rush to explain your silence. You no longer apologize for your solitude. You simply are vast, present, self-contained. That is when you terrify people, because they realize you cannot be reached by the same strings that pull them. They realize your peace is not dependent on participation in their chaos. And that realization, that quiet, untouchable inner power, is what they call mystery. But it is not mystery, it is mastery. You have mastered your availability. You have stopped offering your presence to every vibration that knocks. You have learned to conserve your energy, to guard your attention, to live with deliberation. And from that stillness, your true nature begins to emerge, calm, certain, fearless. You become the observer, not the participant, the creator, not the reactor, the silent force that moves through the world untouched by its noise. When others crumble under pressure, you remain. When others seek validation, you reflect. When others chase, you attract. And so you evolve beyond the reach of mediocrity. You step into the realm of quiet excellence, the kind that does not announce itself, yet shifts the atmosphere when it enters the room. You no longer need to prove your worth through presence. Your absence speaks louder. Your stillness commands attention more than your noise ever could. Your selective energy becomes magnetic because people feel the weight of what is rare. You have become what you were meant to be all along, a soul untethered, a mind unconquered, a being who chooses when to appear and when to vanish. That is freedom. That is mastery. That is the cost and the reward of no longer being available to everyone. One day, you will wake up and realize that you no longer crave to be understood. You no longer chase to be seen. You no longer need to explain your silence. Because the moment you stop being available to everyone, you become available to truth. And truth needs no audience. It only needs embodiment. You will begin to move through life like a force that cannot be summoned and cannot be dismissed. Your energy will no longer leak from your wounds, it will radiate from your wholeness. People will feel it before you speak. Rooms will shift when you enter. Not because you are loud, not because you are seen everywhere, but because you are centered. The strongest presence is not the one that demands attention, but the one that does not seek it. Power lies in restraint, and peace is born from precision. You now move like water unbothered by obstacles, bending, flowing, unstoppable. You no longer entertain every invitation to chaos. You no longer open your door to every vibration that knocks. You guard your gates not out of fear, but out of reverence, because not everything deserves access to your temple. And in that sacred solitude, you begin to hear something deeper than words, the voice of your own divinity, the voice that whispers, "You were never meant to serve everyone. You were meant to serve something eternal." The soul was never designed to be endlessly reachable. It was designed to reach within, to draw power from the unseen, wisdom from silence, strength from stillness. And in that silence, you meet the eternal part of you, the one that cannot be drained, cannot be broken, cannot be bought. You understand now. The cost of being available to everyone is your own soul. But the reward of choosing yourself is the birth of a new one, sovereign, steady, whole. You begin to live as if every breath is deliberate. You speak only when your words carry fire. You give only when it is rooted in truth. You walk with calm intensity, with a softness that hides steel beneath it. You are no longer chasing meaning, you are living it. People will sense it, that shift. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you've grown cold, distant, detached, but you'll smile because you know what they cannot yet see. You have not become colder, you have become clearer. You have not detached from life, you have detached from illusion. And that clarity, that detachment, that calm, it's what makes you untouchable, because nothing can be taken from a person who has already chosen themselves. Nothing can shake the one who has rooted their worth in silence. Nothing can tempt the one who has tasted the freedom of being unavailable to noise. You have become a fortress built of stillness and fire. You have learned to be present, yet unreachable, compassionate, yet unyielding, loving, yet sovereign. You have become your own sanctuary, and no one enters without invitation. This is the true evolution. Not wealth, not fame, not power, but inner dominion. To master your own availability is to master your fate. To choose where your attention goes is to choose who you become. So let the world pull at your edges, you will not move. Let the noise rise, you will remain still. Let people demand explanations, you will answer only with silence, because silence is the final form of strength. It is the sound of someone who no longer needs the world's permission to exist. You are no longer available to everyone. You are no longer a reservoir for the thirsty. You are no longer a servant to urgency. You are the calm in the storm, the observer in the chaos, the sovereign soul who stands between heaven and earth, grounded in truth, lit from within. You have reclaimed yourself, and that quiet, unshakable reclamation is the most powerful sound the universe has ever heard. Because when a person stops being available to everyone, they become available to God. And in that moment, the soul that once scattered itself to be loved finally comes home, whole, radiant, and utterly free.